Hello, everybody. This is Chocolate News Podcast, and today I am your co-host, Andria Carter, a digital correspondent for Chocolate News. I'm filling in for the vacationing John Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Morgan Angelique Owens.
And today I am very, very excited to be here today. And as you know, this is the podcast for the Cincinnati Herald newspaper, and we are the leading African-American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky area. And today I'm going to give you what the chocolate news of the week is. And we're going to start out with, first off, what's ongoing is the deal that the Democrats have been going on about Biden's deal about the infrastructure. And our Ohio's only Black Congresswoman and president of the Congressional Black Caucus, Joyce Beatty, announced that funding for the HBCUs would be within this bill, and also some other things that she's been fighting for the Black agenda. And Morgan, have you heard anything about that?
I have not, but you know what? I am so excited to see HBCUs really, they've really just like rebranded. You know what I mean? Like they've really garnered a lot of respect. Before there was like a stereotype, I think, on HBCUs, but they're actually really awesome schools. I really wish secretly, Andrea, that I went to an HBCU, honestly.
Well, I went to Central State, so I'm very proud to be part of the HBCU family, because there's a lot of good people who have come from HBCUs. I'm, like you said, I'm very glad that they're finally getting their due on an educational level, but also the fact that they have put out so many successful people, Kamala Harris being like the most prominent one. And I think that has done a lot for HBCUs. And,
Absolutely.
and, I think the financial issues and other issues have been going on. I think the country's getting a rude awakening that if you knock something for so long, eventually it's going to bite you. And HBCUs are biting America, because despite the negatives that they think of it, they have produced great people.
Absolutely. And I definitely think that having, our vice president in office has really pushed it over the top, don't you think?
Oh, yes. I think it pushed it over the top. It also pushed, the belonging to a Greek organization like Alpha
Right.
Kappa
Shout
Alpha.
out AKA.
AKA,
oh, yes.
Yes.
The best sorority, AKA the best sorority ever.
And I we don't, not to knock the others, but we are
no shade.
No
the
shade.
First and the finest.
Finest.
Yes. Don't email us now. We all love all our sister Greeks.
Oh, yes.
But AKA.
and pink and green. So but I think it's fantastic. So the next story that we have is Dave Chappelle. And
oh, yes.
This controversy about Dave in his latest documentary, which I've heard snippets, but I have not fully watched it yet. But he is not apologizing for anything. And I think he said, I'm not going to, I think the article that we have on the website right now, he says, I'm not apologizing for anything, and I'm not going to stand up on command either. Hollywood is saying, no, we're not going to work with you. We're not going to do this, things like that, because of the blowback, but it's not new.
No. But you know what, Andrea, if people have watched Dave Chappelle over the years, he's an equal opportunist. He makes fun of everyone. We were talking about earlier, during the Chappelle show, he was making fun of a Black-white racist. He was making fun of white people. He was making fun of Asians. So, it's jokes, but, I know people are very, personable, and they take things to heart. But, with Dave Chappelle, you should know it's not coming from a place of bad spirits or anything like that. I think just simply that's his comedy. And, I think he's more than willing to sit down and talk to the community, but not be pressured and not be, as he said, called upon in that way.
I think the fact that he tells the truth in a satirical way. And, sometimes that truth, people don't want to hear it, or they don't want to accept it the way he says it. And I mean,
right.
And I think it's sad, but it's a controversy that it's going to have to work itself out.
And I watched the stand up, and I didn't see, he hits below the belt for everyone, for everybody. That's all I have to say. He hits below everyone, and that's just his comedy.
Yes, and I agree. So, and then, we'll just have to wait and see what happens and see what else he's going to have on Netflix, because, he will continue on Netflix. I would just say also that the final story that we have for tonight is something that just occurred today, which was the Ohio House passed finally ASHA's law For people who are not familiar with Ashes Law, it is named Ashes Law in honor of the teacher, Shaker Heights teacher, who was killed by her ex-husband, who was a former judge and lawyer. She had been a victim of domestic violence. He had been convicted of an assault. He went to jail. He was released 9 months by the judge. He went back again, confronted his ex-wife and killed her this time. So he's been sentenced to life in prison. But now we have on the books a much stronger domestic violence law that if someone has an aggravated assault, the police are required to conduct a more lengthy assessment of the situation to determine whether or not there are circumstances surrounding domestic violence issues.
Well, I think that's great. And I just hope that, it definitely makes it easier for, both women and men that have assaulters to get, the justice they need, but to feel safe. I know many times I've read and I've heard about cases where the woman has gone to the police and they've done absolutely nothing, maybe because their partner has a certain, standing in the community and no one is taking them seriously. And maybe the woman, doesn't. And then it's too late. So hopefully this law really cracks down and really makes it easier for people of domestic violence to really get the help and justice they need.
Yes, because I don't understand, if you love someone, you don't hit them. If you have anger issues, get it under control, because to hit in anger of a loved one is just, I don't understand it. I never have understood it. And I'm just glad that Ohio's law is strengthened today for this. So that's it for our Chocolates News today. Please check it out on the Cincinnati Herald website. But I'm very happy now to introduce our guest, Ty Sims. Ty?
Hello, everybody. I'm Ty Sims, political junkie. I work in and out of politics. I currently work for someone here in Michigan. We won't say who. But yeah, that's me.
We are in I would say, a wild moment in politics, if I can say that. How important is it for people to stand up and take notice of what is going on right now?
Wow. Well, I mean, really, I don't even know where to begin with that. I mean, there's a lot going on.
I mean, Michigan has a lot going on in itself, from the water issues, from the politics, the craziness with the election. I mean, it's
right. So if we want to talk just about here in Michigan, there's a couple different things going on at the same time here in Michigan. So of course, many people have heard Benton Harbor is actually going through a water crisis right now. Benton Harbor's lead actually is testing at 89 times the CDC guideline recommended limit for acceptable drinking water. That guideline starts at 15 parts per billion of lead is acceptable for public drinking water, and Benton Harbor is currently 89 times that. At the beginning of the Flint water crisis, Flint was actually only 7 times the CDC limit for acceptable drinking water. So dealing with that, the governor just appropriated, I want to say between $10 and $12 million to that plan, and currently waiting on Michigan's Congress to approve another $11 million for Benton Harbor. This is a crisis that has been going on for a little while now, of course, with aging infrastructure, not only, here in Michigan, but everywhere in America. Here in Michigan, we actually have the strictest lead testing regulations here because of the Flint water crisis that came to head in 2014. So we have the water that we're dealing with. Of course, we have GOP or the Republican Party in the House currently trying to pass voter restriction laws, stricter voter ID laws, stricter laws on mail-in voting, stricter laws on the time for early voting to happen. So we have that. We have the Michigan House wanting to reaffirm a 1930s law before Roe versus Wade was passed that is extremely restrictive on reproductive rights. The law would actually be more restrictive than the Texas law currently. We have that going on. And of course, we have 11 GOP candidates right now who are trying to figure out the balance between denying the election results and not trying to sound too crazy. So we have a lot going on in Michigan. You're right.
Oh my God. I mean, the fact that people are still trying to deny the election, I don't get it. I understand it's a
Yeah.
great marketing tool. I understand the GOP is going through a level of excitement and participation that they've never seen before. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
eventually lying, doesn't it bite you? It's going to bite you. The feedback, I mean, the backlash is just going to be so terrific, you would think, against them.
Well, I would definitely agree with that because I mean, well, number one, as we see as things start to come to light with the former president's administration, we see that some of his allies in Congress, some of his consultants, some of his, if you want to call them lawyers, you can call them lawyers. I call them henchmen. Some of them, had a meeting the night before the insurrection and planned this thing. And so, I'd agree with you that once you lie and once you continue to lie, we call this the big lie. It's going to come back to bite you. But I mean, you said something really important earlier about the GOP, about how this might be a great marketing tool. I think it's deeper than that. I think that the GOP has run out of ideas that are appealing to Americans. When you think about the GOP, you really don't think about any of their ideals or what they campaign on besides radical leftists and obstruct. So I think more so than anything, the GOP, because of the fact that they don't have ideas, they just go to the person who's the most popular in the base, who is Trump, who, still has 75-74% of the Republican Party in his back pocket. I think it's sad. I think more so than anything, this is going to be a time that we look back in history. I don't think that far from now. I think in the next 10 or 15, 20, maybe even in 2024, there is a lot of Trump, supporting and endorsing and stomping for candidates to be secretaries of states of these states that he lost. And what are secretary of states in charge of? They're in charge of elections. So now Trump is trying to put these people in office who in 2024 can actually overturn the election in his favor, or be able to figure some way out to maybe even stop the certification of the 2024 election. But I also think this is something to honestly think about too, that there's also a possibility that Trump could legitimately win in 2024. President Biden's approval rate coming out today is only at 40%. When you look at Afghanistan, when you look at, him not being able to force his agenda through Congress, I think that people are really upset because of the fact that, we campaigned on, or Democrats in 2020 campaigned on being able to get things done. And if you elect them, that, things will be able to get done. And I think people are frustrated. And I think that, of course, anytime people are frustrated, they look at the other. And, I don't think that the average American isn't worried about saving democracy. And I think that the average American may not really understand how fragile democracy itself is. And the only way that we keep democracy is if we are dog watchers over democracy. And so I really think that we're at a point where, at least, I hope that the GOP starts to come to their senses, because, I believe that, eventually this is all going to come to head when Trump is indicted.
That I agree. I mean, there's no guarantee he's even going to be the candidate in 2024. But also, is there a record of how many people have left the GOP? Because I know people have been leaving in droves. They're either becoming Democrats or they're becoming independents that remain conservative. But how much is the GOP really looking at what they're losing? I mean, they still have that base, but the bigger base that's in tune with everything, they're very slowly walking away. They're not talking about it, but they're walking away. And I've heard those numbers have increased a lot across the spectrum. And are they taking that into consideration, that when they run in midterm and when they run in 2024, that they may not have who they want in their back pocket? Are they looking at that?
So I think that, well, one, I think the GOP is, and I think that the race that everyone is watching to see if they'll be able to get away with, like I said before, this halfway of, well, Trump was a great president, but he just did a couple bad things. I think that everyone's watching the Virginia governor race between Youngkin and McAuliffe to see if that plan will work, or the GOP will have to go back to the drawing board and figure something else out. I disagree a little bit that I think that if Trump wants to be the 2024 candidate, that he will be the 2024 Republican candidate for president, unless, barring that he is indicted at that time. And truthfully, if he's not convicted, then who's to say that with an indictment, he won't run anyway? So, I mean, I think that the GOP is looking at this, but I think that, again, like I mentioned earlier, when the leader of your party still has 74 to 75% of the entire party in his back pocket, when over, I believe it's 63, 64% of Republicans believe that Trump should run for president again, it's really hard as a Republican to defy him. I mean, when you look at people like, Senator Jeffrey Flake, and how he was censured by the Arizona Republican Party for speaking out against Trump. When you look at the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, okay. So I pronounced that right. When you look at him, he probably won't be able to be reelected again because he won't be able to get through a Republican primary. And so I think that is the most dangerous thing that we need to look at, is the fact that because he still controls the party, that means that he still controls the party's primaries. Now, I do agree with you that I don't believe that campaigning on 2020 is a winning strategy. I think that it's a losing strategy. I think that when you look at especially these swing states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, when you look at those states, I don't believe that campaigning on the 2020 election is a winning strategy, which is why you see the Republican candidate in Virginia try to distance himself as much as possible from Trump. Trump endorsed him, Trump took the endorsement back, and then now Trump has endorsed him again. So, I think that the Republican Party is really trying to find a fine balance between, not being tied closely with him and also, wanting to bring his base along with them as well. I mean, you look at the Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley in Iowa, where he openly said Trump has 91% of the Republican Party in Iowa, and I'd be stupid not to take the endorsement from the person who has 91% of Republicans in Iowa. He never said that Trump has good ideas. He never said that Trump was a great president in that speech. He said that he's accepting his support because of the fact that he controls 91% of the base, which, I mean, unfortunately, we all know that people in Congress, they're in Congress to get reelected. A lot of times they're not in Congress to do the work that they sought to do, or the work that they wanted to do, because the more important thing once they get there is to be able to keep and hold their seat and be able to fundraise and get money and then just prepare for the next election. And it's unfortunate, but I think that some of these senators, especially some of these GOP senators, should stand up. It's unfortunate that they're afraid. It's unfortunate that they're being very cowardice. It's unfortunate that they turn their backs on the American people. And it's unfortunate that they've turned their backs against the Constitution. I mean, 10 years ago, Republicans would campaign on the fact that, they were the party of family values, right?
Right.
And now there's no way that they could ever campaign on being the party of family values. When you look at, the infrastructure bill that you guys mentioned earlier, the reconciliation bill wants to include universal pre-K. We talk about a job shortage, and the GOP will say, or not a job shortage, but people, not wanting to work, or whatever the case may be. But in reality, well, first off, who wants to work for $7.25 an hour, which is, $12,000 a year, I believe, after taxes? Who would ever work for that amount of money? Number one. And number two, women have dropped out of the workforce as often as they have, because a lot of times women are the main caregivers of their households, whether it's taking care of elderly family members or, taking care of the kids. So that's why women have dropped out of the workforce. So if you believed in, family values, I'm someone that believes that that's something that, you would support. You also look at health insurance and the Affordable Care Act, and, the attack and the assault that the GOP put on that, even with, nominating and confirming, Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court in, I believe it was a record amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the GOP really has to take a look in the mirror, because I do believe that the United States needs a secure two-party system, because, there's no way either way, Democrat or Republican, that I believe the country could successfully move. We need healthy debate in our two-party system. But, I think that, the Democrats are having healthy debate within their party. You see that the progressives, they're holding firm on what they want for the infrastructure bill, as well as some conservative Democrats in the Senate are holding firm on, what they want in the infrastructure bill. And do I agree with either? I for sure lean more towards one side than the other. I think that it's weird that Joe Manchin, who he's saying that he has severe reservations for a billionaire tax, but at the same time, West Virginia, the state which he represents, has 0 billionaires. So you have to ask why a man like Joe Manchin, who represents 0 billionaires, would have an issue with a billionaire tax. You have to ask why people who like Christian Cinema, who, when they were in the Arizona state, she was darn near in the Green Party. She was way more left than she is today. And now today, you can rarely even get her to show up to meetings, let alone talk to the press. So I think that something that also is going to be very important in the future is we also have to reform campaign finance law. So that's going to be extremely important, because if we can get big pharma, if we can get the NRA, if we can get all these different types of lobbying firms out of the pockets of our representatives, I think that they'll be able to move and act and vote and advocate more freely.
That is fantastic. And I think I agree with you. And we're going to have you back to further this discussion.
Thank you.
I mean, this is going to be an exciting 2022 is going to be a very exciting year politically. And we're going to have you back, and we're going to have wonderful discussions. But that's it for the news section of Chocolate News for now. And Morgan, take it away.
All right. Well, first of all, Andrea, we got to thank our sponsors. I know we forgot, but
oh my God, we forgot.
Were so excited. I know we were so excited, but we can't forget about Cincinnati Public Schools. Thank you so much for sponsoring this week's episode of Chocolate News. And again, my name is Morgan Angelique Owens. I run Herald Beauty. So we're about to talk things beauty. So I have a special guest that I am so excited to introduce, because she has helped so much with Herald Beauty so far. She helped launch the new Herald Beauty Instagram page, Cincy Herald Beauty. So make sure that you all follow Cincy, spelled with an I, Cinci, Herald Beauty. And she helped with the first ever Herald Beauty event. Her business, Alpha Female Association, did all the beautiful graphics. So thank you so much, Danielle. I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the audience and just tell people how you are a part of the Herald Beauty team now.
Well, thank you for that nice little introduction. But no, first I need to thank you, one, for thinking about me, for reaching out to me to work with you, because I feel like we've been trying to do that forever. And we're always busy.
Yes.
We're always busy.
It's always on timing, though. God's timing.
Right? I know, right? So that's why I'm like, this is perfect. But I have been basically curating content for about 14 years now by accident. I actually fell into this because I thought that I didn't want to pay anybody else to do it. It was too much. Mm-hmm. I didn't know where to find it. So I just started working with female entrepreneurs and just helping them with their brands and curating their events. And the more and more I thought about it, I went, hey, wait, you might be onto something. You might be a creative director or something like that. So I started Alpha Female Association, and that's where it sparked from there. I just ran with it. And now we're here as the VP of content for the Herald Beauty, ma'am.
Yeah, some wonderful title that we've given you.
working. It comes back around. So I do appreciate you.
Yes, of course. So, with your business, the Alpha Female Association, I just love it because you talk about all things beauty, culture, lifestyle. What does beauty mean to you as an alpha female? And
I
what's an
think
alpha female to you? Let's start there. Let's start with
let's start there.
alpha
So
female. Yes.
an alpha female is a multifaceted woman. You can't put her in a box. You can't tell her she can just do beauty. You can't tell her she can just do one thing, because for years women have done everything. And let's not talk about Black women. So
Right,
beauty
right.
for me is a multifaceted woman who can stand on her own, who is not afraid to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? And move
Yes.
forward in all the things that she believes with no question.
Yes, I love that. And that's exactly, so when I started the Morgan A. Owens brands, and particularly the Pretty Professional, my trademark, working in corporate, working at predominantly, all white companies, being a Black woman, being the only one sometimes in the room, oftentimes we sometimes feel like we have to down ourselves to blend in and not stand out. Or if we do stand out, people don't take us seriously, right? I always used to get asked like, oh, are you so-and-so's assistant? And there's nothing wrong with being an assistant, but I was a consultant. I had a consultant role. And I'm like, why do you think, I can't be, a VP or a president or a director because, because I'm a young Black woman, or because I choose to rock my natural curls one day, or come, with a wig in one day, or rock a bright, pink lip, or have my lashes. And so, Pretty Professional came from, you can still be your authentic self and get the job done. So, if everyone follows my brand, I'm all about my lipstick, lashes, and heels and fashion, but I'm still very much a boss. I'm still very much an alpha female. And I can, confidently get the job done, close deals, and more times out of, a lot, make more money than most men out here. And so I think that's really relevant to a lot of Black women now these days. Black women in the standards of beauty look totally different than, my mother's generation, or a lot of people's mother's generations. Black women are the fastest growing demographic as entrepreneurs. Ty mentioned that women are leaving the workforce, but I say they're leaving the workforce because they're being their own boss. We're tired of being underpaid and tired of having our hair being judged, saying, oh, that's not appropriate to rock curls or braids. So we're taking our talents and our skills, and we're creating our own businesses, and we're making more money while looking the bomb, right?
Exactly. For sure. Yes. It is a movement, and I love it.
Yes. Yes. So what type of things does Alpha Female Association do? So I know you're online, so tell us about that. And I know you do events as well.
Yeah, so online, of course, we have blogs. I blog weekly now. I'm on it. I'm blogging weekly.
All right.
And that's all things culture, not really a whole lot of beauty, but culture, business, branding, marketing, content. Today I did one about how to convert your content, because I don't think a lot of people understand that it's not just a post. It's bigger than a post. Like, that post has to make sense. And I am guilty of it. When I first started out, I was just posting because it was cute. That's what the next person was doing. But now I post because I have an agenda. Like, there's a reason why I need you to see these things. So that's the main thing I'm focusing on now, is the blog, getting in more into video, because that is a big thing, because Instagram and Facebook are just changing so much that video is the primary goal for them. And that's what I want to focus on. I want to get more into events, but large scale events. So I'm not just doing the graphics. Like, I really want to be able to produce and be there, boots on the ground, making sure things are working, which I'm heading there. So I'm like very proud of myself. Like, okay, you said you're gonna do it. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yes.
And it's scary when you get yeses. You know what I mean? But at the same time, very exciting.
Yeah, because then you gotta do the work.
Yeah,
then you gotta do all the work.
You gotta say what you said you was gonna do. So yeah, that's what Alpha Female Association is doing. And we also have a podcast too. So we talk about all things business for female entrepreneurs, creatives, anything that's popping in music, all that.
well, I know Herald Beauty, we're super excited to, also, shine your business on future events. And, it's all about collaboration. So I'm super excited to have you a part of the journey. So again, everyone make sure that you not only go follow Daniyiel on what's the Alpha Female Association Instagram?
Alpha Female Association.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. And then everyone make sure that you follow Cincy Herald Beauty. So we'll be posting a lot of, the trending articles that is on the Cincinnati Herald Beauty section, but also reposting some, Black influencers in the beauty space. And of course, if you have anything that you would like to see, you would like to hear about, feel free to always DM us, get in those DMs at Cincy Herald Beauty. So Daniyiel, part of my segment, I am starting to ask, because you're the very first guest on this section of the podcast. So what are your top 3 beauty products that you cannot live without?
Okay. So for sure, I have to have some type of lip balm. For sure. So, and it's crazy because sometimes I just use Vaseline. Don't tell nobody, but those little Vaseline, small containers. I carry those around. Those are like my best. The next thing is I like the new Fenty body oil. I think that's what it's called. I'm looking at it now. It is a body oil, and it's amazing. It smells good too. The next thing that I think I have to have is I'm getting into lashes. So I've been buying my own pretty lashes and putting them on and learning how to actually make them pop before I get out the house. So it's like brow, lash, lip action going on.
All right.
So those are must-haves. And those are like the lower wispy ones.
Oh, those are good. Those are really good. So lip balm, Fenty, body oil, and lashes. Love it. Love it. Hey, Andrea, what about you? I need to know your top 3 beauty products that you can't live without.
Oh, well, I'm a Mary Kay person. And I can't, the time-wise facial regimen, the has the 3-in-1 scrub for the face. I can't live without that. And then the moisturizer for my face. When I was caring for my mother, I was using that moisturizer on her skin, on her face. And I remember everyone was commenting, whenever they went to visit her, they kept saying, her face, her skin looks wonderful. And I said, it's the moisturizer. And so I can't live without those 2. And then I've been experimenting with, I don't do a lot of foundation because my skin is very sensitive, but I've been experimenting with certain types of plums and brown lipsticks or lip gloss. I've been getting into lip gloss, especially with the COVID and everything and the mask. I've been finding for the meetings and everything, I like the fact that the lip gloss gives you just a hint of a shine, but it's dull enough that it makes you look good on the Zoom. Even when you have bad lighting, you still stand out. And that's what a good lipstick or a good gloss I can't live without.
Love it.
I'm not a very brand specific, but if it doesn't dry my lips out, I'll use you a couple times and then I'll switch up. But I like, if it's good, I will try it and run with it. So those are my 2, 3.
Love it. Love it. So definitely skincare. Skincare is very important. So Mary Kay, if you're listening out there, we need some of those skincare items to try out and write about in Herald Beauty. So that's really it for us. Daniyiel, thank you so much for joining this section of the podcast. Again, please let people know how they can support you. So drop your website, IG again, all that good stuff.
I like the fact that if I could just make a comment, I like the term alpha woman. I've never really, I've heard alpha, beta, but I've never heard alpha woman. I was like, yes, because I know so many Black women who are single and successful and they don't take any stuff. And, and they're leaders in their own circles or what they're doing. And they're so alpha-esque, but you don't hear them presented that way. I like that. I'm also going to check out your blog because I like that. So I wrote it down.
So much. So you guys can definitely subscribe at alphafemaleassociation.com. Follow us at Alpha Female Association on Instagram and Facebook. And Alpha Female Energy Podcast also on Instagram and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Sounds like a lot.
Perfect. Thank you. No, that's great. Andrea, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you, Morgan. I loved that segment. I really did. And you know what? You made me think about my beauty. What are my brands that I use? Because usually I follow my sister because she's more into the beauty ask of everything between the two of us. We're twins. So I have some stuff, she does some stuff. And so I think that was fantastic. But that's it for our show today. Thank you again, Cincinnati Public Schools, for sponsoring us. It was very informative and exciting, and we'll have more. You can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.cincinnatiherald.com, the session newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. And we're on your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart, Amazon, Audible, and TuneIn Radio. So everywhere you look, we are there for you and bring you the fantastic chocolate news. So thank you, everyone, and good night.